Hey guys, I'm Rich from NeoWin, and today we are unboxing the Apple Watch Series 4. So today is iPhone Day / Apple Watch Day, and that means that we also just unboxed a new iPhone, and that video should be up by the time this one goes up. And so this is my third Apple Watch. This is the fifth model that's existed, and this is my third. So the first one I got was the original generation. The one I'm wearing right now, that is the Series 2 in space black. That's the stainless steel black. The first one I got was space gray, aluminum, and now I got the Series 4 cellular in stainless steel gold. And so this is not my first cellular watch. It's my first cellular Apple Watch. My first cellular watch is actually this LG Watch Sport right here. And the reason that I have this out is because Android watches have an ambient mode, and that's just basically where you're not holding up the device. When you raise the device, you get this, and then you get that ambient mode that just kind of shows the time. The back of the screen is black, which is good for an OLED display, and it's dimmed down just so you can see the time always. And you can't do that on an Apple Watch, right? There's no ambient display here. You got to lift it up, and then it'll show you the time. And here's the thing, okay, and this is why I bring this up. I believe that Apple is going to have an ambient display in next year's Apple Watch. See, this is the exciting Apple Watch that we've seen because it's a redesign. It's got a faster processor, and there's a lot to be excited about here. And I think it's even more exciting than the new iPhone. But I really think next year is going to be the year that they finally give us an ambient display. And the reason for that is because Qualcomm just announced the Snapdragon Wear 3100. And it's a completely new architecture for a smartwatch chip. So phones use something called Big Little. And what that means is that you have a certain amount of cores that handle the more powerful tasks. And those are more powerful cores. But then you also have cores that handle tasks that don't require as much power. Those are efficient cores, and they don't use as much battery life. So those handle things like, syncing background notifications and stuff like that. So the Snapdragon Wear 3100 actually kind of takes that model and scales it down to smartwatches. They call it big, small, tiny. And what that allows is for new Android watches that are going to come out, they're going to be able to do even more with that ambient display. And the reason I bring all that up is because Apple is not doing that big, small, tiny type of thing in this generation. But if you think they're not going to do it in the next generation, you're crazy. And if for some reason they don't have it done by next year, they'll have it done by the year after that. If you think they're not working on it right now, you're crazy though, because really, they need to have some kind of ambient display on this, and that's the way to get it to not use as much battery life. And that's going to be important, and it's probably been the most wished-for feature on the Apple Watch since it first came out. So like I said, there's been 5 models. The first one we're going to call Series 0, because that was the first generation model. The next year they came out with Series 1 and 2. Series 2, which is the one I'm wearing, it has GPS, it's waterproof. Series 1 had that, it was like the first generation model, but it had that upgraded processor, which was a huge upgrade. Then Series 3 was the first one with cellular, and now we have Series 4, which is a redesign. So I got the 44 millimeter one, which is an upgrade from the 42 millimeter. I mean, well, it's the same. It should be roughly the same body with smaller bezels. What's cool about the Apple Watch though is that it actually has really large bezels, but you can't really tell because it's an OLED. So you don't really see where the screen ends and where the bezel begins. If you go to one of the time-lapse watch faces, right? And see, now you can see those huge bezels because it actually fills the screen. So there's a big difference there. So let's get this open. We're going to boot it up. We're going to set it up. And we're going to play with the packaging a little bit, because the packaging is also different from the last time I got it. Because when I got the first one, they used to call the aluminum one the Apple Watch Sport. That came in a box like this. When I got the stainless steel one 2 years ago, that actually came in a square box because it had the Milanese loop So this has a sport band, so maybe that's why it's different. And no, they all seem to come in different packaging. Oh, so this packaging just kind of comes off like so. Wow, what a nice way of packaging a device. This is very accessible. It actually kind of reminds me of Microsoft's new adaptive controller, where they actually made a video about how to unbox it, because it's so innovative as far as being able to open it if you have disabilities. Like, you don't have to use your teeth. And this is just like that. There's nothing you have to tear. It just kind of comes apart, which is really awesome. So we pull this open. That's our watch over here. The band does come separate. So that's interesting. I don't believe it's ever come separate before. Here's our 5-watt charger. Same one that comes with an iPhone, and the wireless charger. So I don't believe that's ever happened before, where the band comes separate. So that's interesting, and I think it's just an easier way for Apple to package the device, because this is the package that they sell the band in, so that they can just kind of throw this in the box, and I think that just makes it easier. So this is a very, very nice casing that this comes in. It's very slick there. That's pretty cool. See, it says 44 millimeters on the back. So this is the gold stainless steel model, and it's cellular. You see, it has the red ring there rather than just a big red dot. And so let's set this up. And here's our band, where the sport band still comes in two sizes. So I'm not sure if I'm small, medium, or medium large. Probably medium large. And so we're just gonna slide this in like so. One thing I always love about the Apple Watch is just how easy it is to change the bands. So you just slide it in, and I guess I pressed the button accidentally and booted it up. But if you ever want to take the bands out, there's little buttons right here. You just press it and it slides right out. All right, so we've got this set up, and you can see there are much narrower bezels on this, and that's what it's about. The body is still a tiny bit bigger than it is on the 42 millimeter model, and but that's fine. It has narrower bezels and really very similar sizes. So I'm going back to list view, which is how I believe civilized people use their Apple Watches. All right, and so we have new watch faces over here. By the way, I can feel the difference in responsiveness in using this from the Series 2. The Kaleidoscope Vapor is new. Okay. Is this is not an ambient? No. I almost thought it was an ambient mode there. So, yeah. All right, and whoops, let's go back. And because there's a few new ones. Mickey Mouse, that's not new. Let's see. There should be a Flames one. Infograph, I think that's new. Never seen that before. Okay, Infograph Modular Astronomy, Chronograph, Fire and Water. Okay, so these are new. And yeah, so that's the new flame one, and you'll see articles out there that they actually use real flames for this, which is, whatever. But yeah, it's these new watch faces are designed for the new watches. You won't get them if you have the older Apple Watches, which is kind of a shame if you ask me, because really they say they're designed for the bigger screens, but reality, screen isn't bigger on all models. Remember, it's the I keep pressing back and forth, otherwise it'll go to sleep. But remember, the screen is 44 and 40 millimeters instead of 42 and 38. So that 40 millimeter model is still bigger than the 38 millimeter model that existed, and smaller than the 42 millimeter model that existed. So there's no reason this couldn't be on a 42 millimeter one. Okay, so there's also this watch is going to have ECG features. And by the way, you can see that even the pin pad is bigger. So the ECG features are not here yet. If we go to heart rate over here, it'll give you heart. Wow, I just loaded Outlook instead. Yeah, so heart rate. Turn on. So yeah, it's going to do heart rate stuff. The ECG stuff, Not available yet. That's probably coming in watchOS 5.1. All right. And Audible, that's by the way, that's brand new. Audible Amazon just updated the Audible app to have an Apple Watch app, and that's awesome. Because one of the big things about Apple Watches is exercise and not having to carry your phone with you. Because when you're running around, you don't want to have this in your pocket. It's huge, especially this one, it's bigger. So that's why now you have cellular and you can stream music through Apple Music on here. So and just recently with watchOS 5, you get a podcast app as well. So now you can listen to podcasts. You should be able to sync those if you have them downloaded. Just like you could sync downloaded music if you have it. And then, of course, you have Audible now, which is an audiobook service from Amazon. And so now you'll be able to listen to audiobooks while you're out. This has cellular connectivity, so it's still going to sync with my Amazon account while I'm gone. And so it's going to sync with the Kindle edition with WhisperSync for voice. So really, I love the cellular connectivity. Personally, I think that it's 2018 and all of my devices should just be connected to the internet all the time. And this is, by the way, just a beautiful device. The gold looks incredible. And I'm just going to tell people that it's an original Apple Watch and I paid $10,000 for it. Just because, that was that gold. And then, oh, by the way, the best wasn't just the $10,000 watch. It was the $17,000 one that came with that $7,000 band. But I digress. Okay. Yes, this is a beautiful device. The stainless steel gold looks incredible. If you're looking for a new Apple Watch, this is it. Again, I'm speculating when I say that they're going to have an ambient display next year. That is my speculation based on what I see across the board. I mean, take a look at the new iPhone. The new A12 Bionic chip has a neural engine in it, and it's a dedicated processing unit for AI and machine learning tasks. The thing is, Huawei did that last year with the Kirin 970. They used it for the camera and letting it see what it's taking pictures of and adjust settings accordingly. So Huawei did it last year. They had that dedicated neural processing unit. Apple did it this year. Like, you could see the market kind of trends that way. And, Qualcomm next year, they're going to have that dedicated neural processing unit as well. And that's why, I mean, the big, small, tiny architecture that Qualcomm is using for the new smartwatch chip, it just makes sense. And I would be shocked if Apple doesn't come out with something like this in next year's model, and I would be even more shocked if it wasn't in the model after that. But this is something that kind of has to happen eventually, because this is how ARM architecture kind of works, and so this stuff gets scaled down to smartwatches. All right, right now we just have a dual-core processor, which, by the way, is a lot faster than previous generations. One thing that I still hate about the Apple Watch Series 2 is that while this was a lot faster at launch, okay, it slowed down a lot, and it got to a point where launching apps was kind of a pain. So let's turn this off. We're going to just test the boot time in a second. Launching apps was kind of a pain. It got to that point where you launch an app, and it actually would take longer to launch the app than it took for the watch to go to sleep. So it was kind of just a pain to launch apps. And remember, the Series 2 was the first one to support those native apps at launch, because the original Apple Watch didn't have native app support until watchOS 2. So that came as an upgrade. This was the first one to do it at launch. And so that was, I mean, as that kind of evolved, we're still kind of early days for smartwatches. And you could think back to the early days of smartphones where you're taking technology and you're making it smaller. Well, you're going to boot these up. All right. You're taking technology and you're making it smaller. So obviously that means a lot less power. And then that gets iterated very quickly. So you look at like the iPhone, the original iPhone, then the iPhone 3G and the 3GS and the 4 and the 4S, and like how quickly things evolved and things became more powerful. And then today, things, the new iPhone is a 15% improvement over last year, which is not huge. If you have a 2-year-old Android phone, you're still pretty good. If you still have a 2-year-old iPhone, you're still in pretty good shape. So things don't. Wow, that was a lot quicker. So yeah, things don't move as quickly as they used to. So now you have things going in an even smaller form factor. So things are being iterated very quickly right now, and each generation is much more powerful than the last. And eventually we'll get to that point where it kind of plateaus a little bit. But, you know, for now, I mean, these things are going to last a couple generations until there's noticeable lag. And you can see, I mean, this thing has been a major software update it's had for 3 generations now. It started with watchOS 2, and now it's on watchOS 5. And you can see that it takes a lot longer to boot than it used to, because it was pretty quick when I first got it. And if you can find my old Apple Watch Series 2 unboxing video, you could watch me remark about how fast it was at the time. So, I mean, it's very much notable. You're going to want to keep that in mind with smartwatches in general. This thing is still booting. But yeah, so that's the Apple Watch Series 4. It starts at $399. And that's for the Wi-Fi only model, and it starts at $499 for the cellular model. That's for the aluminum one. If you want stainless steel, it's going to be more money. There is no Apple Watch Edition this year. Remember, the original Apple Watch Edition was that gold one that cost $10,000 or $17,000 if you had $7,000 to spend on a fancy band. And then what they did, finally booted. Okay, so but the Series 2 and the Series 2 edition was made of ceramic instead. So instead of costing $10,000, it cost upwards of $1,000. And now this year, the ceramic one's just gone, and it's just aluminum and stainless steel. And then you have the Hermes stuff, which I don't even really look at. You have the Nike one, which is a variant of the aluminum one, which the aluminum one used to be called Sport, and that's obviously gone now. They just call it Apple Watch now. Remember in the beginning, it was Apple Watch Sport, Apple Watch, and that was a stainless steel one, and then Apple Watch Edition. So now it's just Apple Watch, just aluminum and stainless steel. Very simple, and stainless steel. This one cost me $749. It came with the Sport Band. I suggest getting the Sport Band because it's very useful. And the thing is, if you run, this is very secure. Okay, and this is not going to fall off. That's why it's called the Sport Band. And, the Sport Loop is also great for that, the Sport Loop is probably one of my favorites, except when you go in the pool, this gets a little wet and it stays wet. But anyway, you get something like Milanese Loop or a leather loop. You run with those, it's going to kind of feel like the Apple Watch is going to fall off. So to get that in the box is about $100 more. So you want to have a Sport Band. Also, these bands are really cheap on Amazon. You know, where Apple sells the Sport Bands and the Sport Loops for $50. They sell the Milanese Loop for about $150, and you could get a knockoff one on Amazon for like $10. The magnet's not as strong. The build quality is not as good. I don't want to tell you it is because it's not, but it's like $140 cheaper, and you could build up a solid collection of bands if you just go on Amazon. And there's some really good ones there. There's some really crappy ones. Read the reviews. But yeah, so that's the Apple Watch Series 4. It's definitely an awesome upgrade from last year. It's definitely worth checking out. It might be worth buying, but you might want to wait till next year. But that's just my speculation. Anyway, guys, I'm Rich from NeoWin. Have a great night.